The operation began not with a bang, but with the low, powerful whine of jet engines spooling up on airfields across Europe and North America. Dozens of United States Air Force C-17 Globemaster III transport aircraft, the workhorses of American military logistics, were on the move. Their mission was as audacious as it was critical: to rapidly deploy a game-changing weapon system to the front lines of a raging conflict. These were not just routine cargo flights. This was a concentrated high-stakes surge designed to deliver a decisive capability directly into the heart of the fight. The sheer scale of the airlift signaled a major escalation in support and a profound shift in strategic thinking, bypassing contested roads and vulnerable rail lines. Each C-17, capable of carrying over 170,000 pounds of cargo, was loaded with M142 high-mobility artillery rocket systems, better known as HIMARS. These truck-mounted rocket launchers, along with their precious pods of guided munitions and essential support crews, were swallowed into the cavernous holds of the transport jets. The coordination was immense, a symphony of logistics playing out across multiple time zones. The goal was speed: get the launchers in, get them armed, and get them shooting before the enemy could fully grasp what was happening. The M142. HIMARS is not your grandfather's artillery. It's a lightweight wheeled evolution of the heavier tracked M270 multiple launch rocket system mounted on a standard United States Army medium tactical truck chassis. A small crew of 3 can operate the entire system, which can drive on and off a transport plane like a C-17, travel at highway speeds. This shoot and scoot capability is precisely what makes it so survivable on a modern battlefield where anything that stays still for too long becomes a target. At its core, HIMARS is a launch platform for a family of munitions, but its most famous payload is the Guided Multiple Launch Rocket System, or GMLRS missile. Each rocket is GPS guided, allowing it to strike targets with incredible accuracy, often within just a few meters of the aim point. A single HIMARS launcher carries a pod of 6 GMLRS rockets, each with a range exceeding 80 kilometers or about 50 miles. This reach extends far beyond the range of most conventional tube artillery, allowing HIMARS to operate from behind friendly lines while holding an adversary's critical rear echelon assets at risk. The arrival of HIMARS on the battlefield induced a state of tactical and psychological shock among Russian forces. For months, they had operated with a sense of relative impunity in their rear areas. Suddenly, that entire calculus was shattered. The safe zones were no longer safe. The first wave of HIMARS strikes, lighting up the night sky deep behind Russian lines, sent a terrifying message: nowhere is truly secure. This was a new and frightening kind of war. The psychological impact on individual soldiers and commanders was profound. Imagine being a logistics officer at a major supply depot, feeling secure 50 kilometers from the fighting. Then, without warning, the entire depot erupts in a chain of catastrophic secondary explosions. Or picture a battalion commander in a hardened bunker, coordinating an attack, only to have the bunker precisely targeted and obliterated. This breeds a pervasive sense of fear and paranoia. Trust in the security of the rear evaporates. Every headquarters, every supply convoy, every troop concentration becomes a potential target, creating constant, gnawing anxiety that degrades morale and decision-making. The battlefield provided immediate and brutal validation of the HIMARS effectiveness. One of the most prominent early examples was the systematic targeting of the Antonivsky Bridge in Kherson. HIMARS was able to repeatedly strike the bridge deck with pinpoint accuracy from a safe distance, rendering it unusable for heavy military traffic. Ammunition dumps became another prime target category. Russian doctrine relies on massive, centralized depots to feed its voracious artillery. Night after night, spectacular explosions lit up the horizon across occupied territories as Ukrainian forces used HIMARS to detonate millions of dollars worth of shells and rockets. Command and control centers were also systematically hunted, using a combination of signals intelligence, drone reconnaissance, and human sources. Ukrainian forces identified and targeted Russian headquarters with devastating effect. The loss of experienced commanders and their staff in an instant threw units into chaos. The system's impact was also felt in counter-battery warfare. Russian artillery, long the king of the battlefield, suddenly found itself being hunted. As soon as a Russian battery would open fire, its position could be detected, coordinates relayed, and a HIMARS salvo launched in response, often before the Russian guns had even finished their fire mission. The rapid deployment of HIMARS was not magic. It was the product of decades of investment in a global airlift capability that is second to none. The U.S. Air Force's Air Mobility Command is the unseen engine that powers American force projection. The C-17 is a marvel of military engineering, designed to operate from short, austere airfields while carrying outsized and heavy cargo. It can fly intercontinental distances without refueling, land on a semi-prepared runway, unload a 70-ton Abrams tank or 3 HIMARS launchers, and take off again in short order. While dozens of aircraft might sound like a lot, it represents just a fraction of the U.S. Air Force's total fleet of over 220 C-17s. AMC can generate a surge of this magnitude without significantly disrupting its other global commitments, supported by aerial refueling from tankers like the KC-135 and KC-46. Moving sensitive systems like HIMARS by sea and ground could take weeks or months, exposing them to interdiction and allowing enemies time to prepare countermeasures. By using airlift, the U.S. compressed that timeline into mere days, denying the adversary reaction time and seizing the initiative. The strategic airlift of HIMARS stands on historical precedent. One of the most iconic examples is the Berlin airlift of 1948-49. When the Soviet Union blockaded land routes into West Berlin, the Western Allies responded with a massive, sustained air bridge, supplying an entire city from the sky. A more direct military precursor was Operation Nickelgrass in 1973. During the Yom Kippur War, Israel was suffering staggering losses in equipment. The United States initiated a massive strategic airlift using C-5 Galaxy and C-141 Starlifter aircraft to deliver tanks, artillery, ammunition, and critical supplies directly to Israel. The First Gulf War saw the largest and fastest strategic airlift in history up to that point, moving hundreds of thousands of troops and tons of cargo to Saudi Arabia in months. Compared to these past operations, the HIMARS airlift was smaller in scale but arguably more significant in its precision and immediate tactical impact. The official reaction from Kiev was one of profound gratitude and strategic confidence. Ukrainian leaders hailed the arrival of HIMARS as a pivotal moment in the war. Ukrainian social media channels were flooded with videos of successful strikes, often set to triumphant music, turning the weapon into a national icon. On the other side, Moscow's reaction was a mixture of public dismissal and frantic behind-the-scenes countermeasures. Officially, the Russian Ministry of Defense made frequent claims of having destroyed multiple HIMARS launchers, often releasing grainy footage that was quickly debunked. This public bravado belied deep-seated concern. In the Russian information space, particularly among military bloggers, the tone was far more alarmed. They spoke openly of HIMARS phobia and criticized the Russian military for failing to adapt, providing a more accurate gauge of the system's true impact. The introduction of HIMARS forced fundamental changes in Russian tactics. The era of lazy logistics and centralized command was over. Ammunition dumps had to be broken into smaller, hidden caches, creating a logistical nightmare and slowing the overall tempo of Russian operations. The successful deployment of HIMARS casts a long shadow over the future of land warfare, serving as a case study in how precision strike capabilities can offset numerical disadvantage. Future conflicts will see greater emphasis on long-range, mobile, precision-guided systems and the defensive systems designed to counter them. For the United States and its allies, this means they can intervene and shape conflicts with unmatched speed. For potential adversaries, the lessons are stark. The story of the C-17s and the HIMARS they carried is a glimpse into the future battlefield, where success depends on the ability to process information, strike with precision, and protect one's networks. The thunderous roar of globemasters delivering steel rainmakers has changed not only one war, but provided a clear signal of what is to come.